Hey guys, Ravi the Heavy Roller here with a video from after a long absence. It's been quite a busy world in the realm of the world of Ravi. Been crazy times as well, work-wise, studies, and of course, raising a family at the same time. But it still hasn't taken my attention off what's happening in the comic book world or the movie world in this particular instance. I, for one, am looking forward to the December 16th release of Spider Man No Way Home. And it's already looking like it's stacking heavily in favor of a cameo for both Tobey Maguire and Andy Garfield. Yeah, there's some exciting times. But this video is actually about a character which is quite close to me. Somebody or a character that I grew up watching when I was much younger. There were various actors that portrayed the role of James Bond, but perhaps one of the more impactful actors in that regard was obviously the more recent person to portray the role of James Bond, that being Daniel Craig. And this, of course, was his last outing as 007. Interesting movie. Certainly wasn't his best movie, but I think the producers, the director in this particular instance, wanted to make a more realistic view of a James Bond, an aged James Bond who has retired twice before. And I have to say that the movie was overall quite good. Certainly surprised me, considering the negative reviews that the initial trailer got. People initially thought that we will bear witness to an outright replacement of James Bond with a female James Bond in the modern age. And, as controversial as that might seem, I, for one, would like to see that type of deviation from the original brand. But in saying that, though, this particular movie is quite interesting in that when we look at Daniel Craig's portrayal of Bond, we see a grittier, more darker version of the character, which steps far away from the Roger Moore James Bond, which is certainly campier and much more comedic in presentation. But this particular Bond, I think, sort of honored the likes of Timothy Dalton's portrayal. And I think Timothy Dalton's portrayal of Bond in The Living Daylights and License to Kill was certainly gritty and dark in general. And perhaps ahead of its time, because I think if we had to see that in the early 2000s as opposed to the late 80s, we probably would have appreciated it more. A friend of mine actually indicated to me one day that Timothy Dalton is his favorite James Bond, and I have to say that, upon recently concluding, or Daniel Craig recently concluding his role as James Bond, the grittier Bond is certainly preferred. The darker Bond series is certainly preferred. And what is great about Daniel Craig's portrayal, particularly, is that we got to see the re-emergence of Spectre. Now, for those of you that are fans of the franchise, all 25 films in particular, going as far back as the first James Bond, Sean Connery, who of course passed away quite recently. If you look at the Dr. No, From Russia with Love, Spectre were always referenced. And it was interesting to see Blofeld's re-emergence in the last movie, Spectre. It certainly brought life into the whole Cabal sort of stable. That, there could be a New World Order that's just sort of creeping around the background, an Illuminati sort of organization in the background that's influencing things. And that's ultimately what we got to see with Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig, being the super agent that he was, it was defiant every step of the way. But the No Time to Die, I have to say that what I appreciated the most about it was the various Easter eggs to previous James Bonds, previous M's were also referenced as well. You see Easter eggs from Judi Dench's M. You see Easter eggs from the M's in the 70s and the 80s. But apart from that, uh, I think the title certainly gives it far away, and I apologize for the spoilers. But No Time to Die is certainly, when Daniel Craig meant this was his last outing as Bond, it certainly was his last outing at Bond, both on and off the screen. The character was literally killed off in the very last scene of the movie, or the second last scene of the movie, and it left a very melancholic feel for me. I really didn't expect him to die, irrespective of the title or not, because James Bond, no matter what the circumstances are, is the one guy you expect to get out of a sticky situation, a situation where a bomb is about to explode and it hits the last digit, and then, like Roger Moore's James Bond just pulls a plug at the last second, the red one, and then suddenly, nobody dies. But Daniel Craig decided, what, he was going to go out in the best possible way, um, which is, I won't spoil it any further, but it was quite a somewhat semi gruesome manner. The other thing I want to leave you guys with is that this has to be one of my favorites. While it's not, certainly in my opinion, not the best Daniel Craig's portrayal as Daniel Craig's James Bond, or certainly not his best movie at least. And for the record, it's Casino Royale, hands down. Watch that movie today, 2006 or not, brilliant movie. Um, I have to say, it certainly showcased that James Bond has undergone a growth spurt. He's grown up from his initial character in Casino Royale. You see an evolution of sorts where he grows a conscience. He's no longer a stone cold killer. Judy Dench's M tended to reference that. She used to put him down. Now, the thing with with M and James Bond, no matter which movie you look at, M's character is always perpetually putting James Bond down. We can even go back as far as Doctor No, or From Russia with Love, and go even to Timothy Dalton's Bond. Every single M is basically sort of the antagonist to the James Bond character, while trying to enable him, while they're still trying to be part of the same team. But in this particular instance, I have to say that James Bond has grown up. He's no longer, if you look back as far as Quantum of Solace, you're still getting the likes of like Strawberry Fields and stuff in the sack. Whereas in this particular Bond, there was a Bond girl right in the beginning, and no, not the other 007, which we'll get into a little bit later. Um, he never got her in the sack. In fact, I think he slept with pretty much one woman throughout this entire movie, which is mind blowing for me. Excuse the pun. Uh, yeah, that was an interesting thing. And of course, he actually grew from strength to strength. He started off as a stone cold killer, evolved into somebody much more sympathetic, somebody that didn't kill as much, somebody that did not manipulate or take advantage of women. And I think it goes on with the times. It is the Me Too generation. People are much more conscious of what they say, what they broadcast, what they do on a day-to-day basis. And I think James Bond has responded to the societal demand or the societal change, to something much more conscious, something much more unbiased, something much more welcoming of diversity as well. And that brings in my next point. Now, there's a lot of uproar and outcry about 007 being portrayed by a black female. Now, I want to state for the record that I, for one, am looking forward to seeing a deviation. And then when I say deviation, it is a change from the current brand. A major change at that. It's a step in the right direction. The fact is, if you go to any law enforcement environment, you're going to see men and women working together. And why not MI6? Why not MI6 on the silver screen at least? 007 at the end of the day, and I think this was made very clear in the movie, is just a number. It's not, while 007 James Bond was almost sort of entangled in each other's presence. 007 is effectively just a number. It can be occupied by anybody, but there will always be only one James Bond. And I think that is a big hint at with regards to the evolution of this particular brand. We will more than likely see a team effort of MI6. Definitely we'll see another 007 take the stage. But James Bond might be a separate character out of all of that. You might see two deviations. One where you see the new 007 with the entire team trying to stop with the relics of Spectre, what's left of them at least. They may not spoil it any further. And then you might have James Bond doing his own thing. I think there's so much you can do. I think we've learned so much from the Marvel Cinematic Universe in that, or the DCEU as well, where you can have several versions of the same character on the screen at the same time. Why the hell not? They're doing that with Batman. I don't see why they can't do that with James Bond. So I think Universal Studios, the Broccolis, Eon Productions, I'm pretty certain they have thought that far ahead. That James Bond could take many forms. A young James Bond, a retired James Bond, a James Bond in another universe. Why the hell not? A female James Bond? Who says it has to be James Bond? It could be 007 in with regards to this particular movie as well. But folks, that's it from me. Bit sad. It's like almost saying goodbye to a good friend of mine. But I think he ended off the movie in the best possible way overall. There's only so far you can take the character. And I look forward to seeing the next Bond film, Bond 26, whatever that's going to be. But go ahead and watch No Time to Die. Fantastic outing. A fantastic farewell to Daniel Craig. I think he did justice to the role. And I look forward to seeing him on future works as well. Take care, guys. Stay safe. And give it a like and a subscribe. And please share with your friends. And yeah, let's stay in touch in the comments. Take care.